The amphitheater stretched across 3 orbital platforms, hosting cadets from 47 species. Katniss sat in the back row, her human frame small compared to the chitinous bulk of the Krell beside her, or the crystalline towers of the Varathians 2 rows down. The Galactic Military Academy had accepted its first human cohort only 6 months ago, and she still felt the weight of 1,000 eyes whenever she entered a room. Instructor Vexthor, a towering Arconian with 4 arms and skin like polished obsidian, activated the holographic display. Stars burst into existence above their heads, then twisted and died in accelerated time-lapse. Civilizations rose and fell like breathing. Today, we discuss extinction-level events, Vexthor announced, his voice resonating through translation implants. Specifically Prime Wars. The display shifted, showing a spiral of red spreading across a galactic arm like blood in water. Katniss leaned forward. She'd heard whispers about Prime Wars in the Academy's corridors, always spoken in hushed tones, always followed by uncomfortable silence. A Prime War occurs when a species encounters the Architect's technology before reaching sufficient technological and philosophical maturity, Vexthor continued. The Architects seeded the galaxy with weapons millions of years ago, weapons that respond to sapient thought, weapons that amplify aggression, fear, and territorial instinct. The hologram showed a planet tearing itself apart, continents cracking like eggshells as massive energy beams carved through the crust. The Zynthians found an Architect installation 12,000 years ago. They were a peaceful species, explorers and artists. Within 3 solar cycles, they had glassed their own homeworld and 17 colonies. Total extinction. Vexthor's voice carried the weight of ancient tragedy. The Kelvar, the Prithians, the Luminous Collective, all gone. 43 species have encountered Architect technology. 43 species have triggered Prime Wars. He paused, his 4 eyes sweeping the amphitheater. No species has survived a Prime War. Not one. Katniss felt something cold settle in her stomach. Her hand moved unconsciously to her chest where 3 scars ran beneath her uniform. Scars from Denver, from the siege of New Beijing, from the last stand at São Paulo. The pattern is inevitable, Vexthor continued. First contact with Architect technology triggers latent aggressive tendencies. Species turn on themselves with weapons they barely understand. The war ends only when there's no one left to fight. We did. The words left Katniss's mouth before she could stop them. Barely a whisper, but in the sudden silence of the lecture hall they carried. Every head turned. Thousands of eyes, compound, crystalline, photosensitive, and otherwise, focused on the small human in the back row. Vexthor's expression was unreadable. Cadet Katniss, do you have something to share with the class? She stood slowly, her legs shaking. Instructor, with respect, humans survived a Prime War. The amphitheater erupted in clicking, whistling, and modulated sounds that the translators rendered as disbelief and derision. Vexthor raised one hand and silence fell like a hammer. Explain. Katniss's mouth was dry. 2089. We found an Architect installation under the Antarctic ice. Within 6 months, every major power on Earth was weaponizing the technology. The first Architect War lasted 11 years. The second lasted 7. Between them, 4 billion humans died. She could feel Leo's presence 3 rows down, another human cadet. He'd turned to face her, and she could see the same scars in his eyes that she carried in her own. The weapons turned us into monsters, Katniss continued. The Architect technology amplified everything dark in us. Every grudge, every territorial instinct, every tribal hatred. It fed on our fear and rage, made weapons that could crack tectonic plates, bioweapons that rewrite DNA, nanite swarms that consumed entire cities. Vexthor's 4 arms crossed. Then how, Cadet, are you standing here? Because we learned. Katniss's voice grew stronger. After the Second War ended, we had a choice. We could finish the job, use the last Architect weapons to wipe ourselves out completely, or we could do something no other species apparently managed. We could choose to stop. She pulled up her own holographic display, projecting images she'd carried since childhood. The ruins of old Chicago, the memorial wall in New Geneva, where 3 billion names were carved, the Reconciliation Summit in the restored Amazon. We created the Covenant of Ashes. Every nation, every faction, every survivor signed it. We sealed the Architect installations. We destroyed every weapon we'd built. We chose to forget how to make them. Her voice cracked. And then we chose to remember why we should never make them again. Leo stood now, adding his voice. My grandfather fought in the Second War. He helped glass the Asian subcontinent. He spent the last 40 years of his life replanting forests. Every human grows up visiting the dead cities. We make our children see what we did to ourselves. Katniss nodded. It took us 60 years to stabilize. Another 50 to reach the stars. We're the youngest species in the Galactic Council because we lost so much time. But we survived, Instructor. We survived ourselves. The amphitheater was silent. Vexthor studied the humans with an expression that might have been respect, might have been fear. The Council's records indicate humanity emerged from a difficult period before joining galactic civilization, Vexthor said slowly. They did not specify the nature of this difficulty. Because we asked them not to, Katniss replied. We're not proud of what we did, but we're not ashamed of surviving it either. Vexthor was quiet for a long moment. Then he gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show Earth, green and blue and alive. 44 species have encountered architect technology. 43 achieved extinction. His voice carried a new note, perhaps wonder. 1 achieved wisdom. He looked directly at Katniss and Leo. Perhaps that is why the Council admitted humanity despite your youth. You have already passed the test that destroyed civilizations millions of years old. As Katniss sat down, she felt the weight of those 1,000 eyes again. But this time it felt different. Not judgment. Not curiosity. Understanding. The lecture continued, but she barely heard it. She was thinking of the dead cities, of the covenant of ashes of 4 billion graves that whispered the same message across the decades. We survived. We learned. We will never forget. And somewhere in the depths of space, sealed beneath kilometers of ice and warning signs in every human language, the architect installations waited in their tombs, silent and dark, never to wake again, not because humans couldn't use them, but because humans had already proven what would happen if they did. For the 4 billion, we remember.